Hey guys, it's Macca from Jack's Bag of Macca, and I'm here to talk about my opinions on Devilman Crybaby. I knew nothing at all about Devilman when this was announced, and all I heard was that the original Devilman manga from the late 70s, not late 70s, what am I saying, early 70s, was a big influence on Berserk, which I really like Berserk. I wish I had more merchandise from it. So I was like, you know, I wanna see what influenced Miura. So I knew nothing. I knew I knew like a little bit, I guess. I basically knew nothing going into this. I'd ask people, is this an adaptation of the manga? Is it an adaptation of something that hadn't been adapted before? Because I had heard that like, oh, it's adapting the Tokyo arc or whatever, and I just heard a million different things. So I asked some people like, what is it? And I got answers that were like, oh, it's a complete adaptation of the original manga. It adapts nothing from the original manga. It's completely its own thing. And I had no fucking clue exactly what Crybaby was going into it, but now I know, because now that I've watched it, I've gone and done some research, and yeah, it basically is a different interpretation of the manga. So just to get that out of the way, it's a different interpretation of the manga. I initially thought it might have been something like the original Fullmetal Alchemist, where it starts off from a similar point, but then it does something else entirely. But as far as I can tell, it's basically just takes the events of the original manga and then reinterprets them and does them differently. And honestly, this interpretation's really good. I can't say how it compares to the original manga. Fuck off.
How dare you disturb my family vacation?
Yeah, I can't say how it compares to the original manga because I haven't read it. I know nothing about Devilman, as I said. So I'm just gonna take this completely on its own thing. So don't think that when I'm talking about Devilman, when I'm criticizing Crybaby or saying something about Crybaby, positive or negative, don't think I'm saying that about Devilman as a whole. This is just purely about Crybaby. I don't know anything else. So anyway, I made notes of little things I wanted to talk about. So I guess let's get into it. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about, and this is something that's been, as far as I can tell, a bit more controversial within the fans of Devilman, and that's the art style and the animation. I've seen the comparisons, and yeah, the new art style looks nothing at all like the original. But I think the reason why they did this is because it was to help differentiate it as a different interpretation, as well as allowing it to have really fluid animation, because this animation is beautiful sometimes. It is amazing. It reminds me of something out of like Studio Bones. That's how good it can be sometimes. But then there are other times where it looks like this, and it looks like ass, and it just doesn't look... It looks really cheap and lazy at times. And sadly, there are points where it feels like things were done not for stylistic reasons, but for budgetary reasons. There are multiple times throughout the series that things just repeat. They clearly reuse animations, and it's never for like action or anything. It's never like fucking, I don't know, Digimon levels of reuse animation. But it's like, there'll be a back and forth, and they'll cut back and forth between character A and character B for a while. They'll cut back and forth between them, and character A will have a basic talking animation, then character B will have a basic talking animation, and then they just swap back and forth between these two talking animations for like 2 minutes, and it just, well, not 2 minutes, never, but like for a minute, and it just screams of budgetary issues. It makes it, the fact that the animation during action sequences and during the times when it is really beautiful Sakuga, it makes up for it, but there's still those times where it looks ugly. There are times where it looks beautiful, and times where it looks ugly as sin. Another thing that, it has to do with the animation, I guess. I felt like the action wasn't as brutal or hard-hitting as it should have been. Things felt, I don't know, like you could always get a feel of how if something's directed well, you can always get a feel of how something is supposed to hit, how it's supposed to feel. And there are times where it feels appropriate in Devilman Crybaby, where it feels like it hit hard. You can really feel what they're going for. But there are other times where it just feels like it was weak. And I guess might be the fault of like the sound direction, the animation itself. I don't know. There are a number of factors into allowing the audience to feel the weight of something. And it doesn't feel like it came across as well in certain points. Now the story, as far as I can tell, the story is basically the exact same structure as the original manga. Of course, there are going to be differences, and it's very clear what these differences are if you know anything about the manga. Like, I literally just Googled some shit, and I found differences immediately. But the story itself is still quite good. It's still really good. The atmosphere and the tone, I can see how it influenced Berserk, especially in the ending. Throughout the entire show, the atmosphere and tone that I felt basically like the atmosphere and tone of the eclipse, but throughout the whole series. Not to say that like the eclipse happens throughout all 10 episodes, but rather just that feel of like dark and oppressive. It feels like that throughout the entire series, and I really liked it. Oh yeah, another really good comparison for the atmosphere, the dark, oppressive atmosphere that is in Devilman Crybaby. I mentioned Berserk, but another good example would actually be Majora's Mask, where throughout Majora's Mask there is that very dark, oppressive atmosphere, and it throughout the whole thing, you have this feeling in the back of your head that like, oh god, something's gonna happen. You just feel despair, and it's very similar. So if you kind of like that atmosphere, you would also probably like the atmosphere in Devilman Crybaby. Though Devilman Crybaby has a lot more. It earns its rating. I'll say that. It earns its rating very easily. Sadly, as I mentioned just a moment ago, there's only 10 episodes, and I feel like this story can't be told in 10 episodes, Freudian slip. It feels like it needed another 2 episodes, maybe 15. Not 15 more episodes, but 15 episodes total. I feel like it would have helped out greatly, because the pacing is the biggest problem with the show, I feel, and it leads to a lot of the problems that I have with it. The pacing is too fast. So much happens so fast, and I think this is another aspect of what goes back to the action doesn't hit hard enough. The pacing is just so fast, things just happen and happen and happen and happen, that you can't get a full grasp and process it all in time. It hurts the action, and it hurts the story, because there are things with the characters where like a character will do this, or they'll change sides or whatever, and it comes out of nowhere. It feels random. There's no proper setup because they don't have time for it. They have to fit the rest of the story in. So anything that they deem as a subplot is practically dropped. And it really hurts it, because there's some characters in this that I really, really liked. But then something happened to them that just brought the whole thing down. And again, with the budgetary things, there are scenes that are expertly directed. The entire final episode is so well directed that it saves a lot of the pacing issues. While the pacing is a problem, it makes up for it. But even those scenes that are so expertly directed, the budgetary issues bring those down as well. And again, like scenes that are supposed to mean a lot, that are supposed to be like a huge story beat, they just, due to the fact that they have to keep reusing animations, or they can't show more than what they already show, it just kind of brings the whole thing down, I feel. It brings the scene down. It could be like a 10, but it brings it down to like an 8. It just had the potential there, but it just didn't have the money. And as a result, things just weren't as good as I feel they should have been, and as good as the director wanted. But thankfully, the director, who, I don't know his name, but apparently he was the guy who directed the Ping Pong anime, the one with the horrible looking art style that turned a lot of people off, but it also apparently looked fucking beautiful. Very similar art style to Devilman Crybaby, so, you know, not surprised. Devilman Crybaby is more defined, I would say, while Ping Pong is much more fluid. But yeah, he seems like the kind of guy that, like, if you can give him enough money, he can make art. And throughout Devilman Crybaby, there is a lot of art. But then there are scenes of just... I'm gonna give some examples of the pacing issue and how it affects certain characters, and these are gonna be spoilers. So I would say skip to this time, and you won't have to see the spoilers if you don't want to. There's just some story beats and some character development that just get really fucked up as a result of the pacing issues that I have to talk about them for a moment. So one of the examples I feel is in episode 8. It is the episode where Ryo discovers himself and he finds out that he is Satan. A lot of things just kind of happen and it's not explained, or they're not set up all that well, and it kind of brings down the whole, like, oh god, what is Ryo, what is he doing kind of thing. And that just, they have to fit it all in. And it just, ugh. Kido changing sides out of fucking nowhere. It's like literally one scene, he's like, all for, like, we gotta gather the Devilmen together, we gotta team up, and then the next scene he sees a bunch of demons working together, and then he's like, yo, you're cool, I wanna be a part of your team. And initially I thought this was like, oh, he's scared, or this was a plan or something. But no, the next time you see him, he's full on, I'm working for the demons now. And it just, he changes so quickly. And there's no real motivation given. They just tell you the motivation. They don't show you anything. The biggest non-subplot in the show is in the final episode. And that is Xenon. Xenon, near the end of the show, they make him out to be like a big deal, you know, like, oh, he's the general of the demons, you know. He never feels like too much of a character, but he's important enough for you to know him. Just out of nowhere, in a throwaway line, fucking, oh yeah, Xenon tried to rebel. He tried to rebel and he got fucked over, and don't worry, we stopped him. And then that's it. It was the biggest, like, you didn't need to have that in there. I don't know if this is like, in Japan, this would mean something, because I know that in the original Devilman anime, Ryo was not in it, and that Xenon was the big bad, or at least he took the place of Ryo and Satan. And I don't know if it's supposed to be a pass at that. It feels so random that, like, if it's a joke that I just don't have the context for, then you know what, that's on me. It was never gonna make sense to me anyway. But it just felt random to me. And when I first saw that, I was like, no, wait, what? What? So it just, I don't know. Spoiler talk over, whatever. Some characters that I thought were really well developed that I really liked would be Ryo, Akira, Miko, just those guys. They were actually really great. I loved Miko's side story, because it was like the one subplot that they decided, you know what, let's do something with this. And I know they changed Miko's story a lot from the original manga, but I liked what they did here. Of course, I can't say how it compares to her original story, but I liked what they did with her. I thought it was really cool, and she was one of the better characters. Also, I like her because big titties. Haha, anime joke, big titties, fuck you. Ryo and Akira, of course, they were gonna be like some of the best developed characters. They're the main characters, you know. of course, they're going to be very well developed, but just their development throughout the whole thing, aside from one little hitch at the beginning with Akira, where I'm not going to consider this a spoiler because this is the first fucking episode, when he first merges with Devilman, when he first merges with Amon, his personality from before that and after that are so drastically different that it feels jarring. It feels like you didn't get to know him well enough prior to it. And then when he just jarringly becomes a new guy, it might as well just be a brand new character. And then everyone just kind of acts like, personality-wise, he's the same. But he isn't. They acknowledge that, like, oh, he's taller, he's got a bigger dick, he's really hot. They acknowledge that, but they act as if his personality's the same, and I don't see it. I really don't see it, and I felt in the beginning that was just really jarring. Like, they could have done a better transition, or they could have written that better. It's just, ugh, I don't know. Ryo, though, out of everyone in the show, I think Ryo probably had the most consistent character development, aside from the one little hitch where in episode 8, when he's discovering himself. I won't say much more than that, but the pacing, going back to the pacing in that episode was just so fast, it felt like, it was just going a bit too fast, but aside from that, I think Ryo had the most consistent character development. The last two things I want to mention before I get on to the sound, and then with the sound I'll be done with it. The soundtrack, the OST in this show is really, really good. It has its own kind of roundabout type ending, where of course if you know Roundabout, JoJo Roundabout it has that kind of song where the ending of each episode transitions into the ending very well, whether it's the ending song starts playing before the animation ends, or something happens with the last scene that makes the transition into it very smooth. Like, just for example, someone fires a gun, and someone's pointing a gun, it's like a tense moment, like, oh, are they gonna shoot? And then right as they nothing, amazing, but these transitions I actually really liked. I felt like they were a really good bookender to each episode, and it's something that just stuck in my mind. The final episode, again with the endings, I thought that final scene was actually really beautiful. I really liked it. I think that was probably my favorite scene in the whole show. Not the post-credit scene, which, by the way, there's a post-credit scene that I didn't get at first, but after reading some stuff online, it makes a lot more sense what that is implying. But I really liked that last scene. I thought it was beautifully bittersweet. I thought I wasn't expecting that at all. It was handled very well, and it's the kind of thing that, if Berserk ended that way, I wouldn't mind, even though I would want something else. I have my own idea of how I want Berserk to end, something that is very bittersweet. But with this ending, it is bittersweet, but it leans more on, I guess, on the bitter than the sweet. And it was so beautiful yet melancholy. It just really stuck out to me. I think that might be my favorite scene in the whole show. The English dub. I liked it. I thought it was good. I watched the whole show English dubbed, and then I went back and watched a few episodes, the first episode and the final episode in Japanese, just to kind of get an idea. And I liked it. I like both. I think both are good. I think the English dub has its quirks that a lot of English dubs are going to have. Some lines just aren't read well. I feel really bad because I know the voice actress, but the voice actress who plays Kid Akira during the flashbacks, it just wasn't good. I know her. I know of her, and I think she can be really good. And I've heard her play kids before, and I think she can do it well. But there's just something about this that I don't know if it was just bad direction or what. But I didn't like her as Kid Akira. I don't know, there's just something off about it. And there's also lines where fucking Ryo sounds weird. Some side characters sound weird. It's just, I don't know. There are just some things that feel like it could have been directed better, or it's just something that happened as is. Okay, so I'm throwing this in after I'm currently working on editing the video, and I forgot something, a point that I wanted to make that I wrote down that I just completely went over. I felt like the social commentary in the latter half felt a little heavy-handed. It wasn't bad by any means, but it was drawn out in certain scenes, and it just got to a point where it's just like, yeah, we get it, you know, xenophobia is bad, it dragged on for a bit, and it didn't ruin any scenes, but it did make me wish some of the scenes weren't as long as they were. Particularly some of the ones in episode 8 or 9, I think it was. But around that time point is when I start to feel like the social commentary just really gets, come on, let's go. Yeah, that's about it. So overall, I would say Devilman Crybaby, it met my expectations. I went in expecting to see what influenced Berserk, and I got that. Not to say that Crybaby influenced Berserk, of course. But it has some problems. I'm seeing a lot of people saying this is like 10 out of 10 anime of the season, and then I'm like, no, fuck you, it's Pop Team Epic. But and then I'm seeing those guys, and then I'm seeing people who are like, it's terrible, it's a worthless adaptation, it's trash. And I'm like, no, it's really neither of those. It has problems. It could have been a 10 out of 10 anime of the season, but through like budgetary issues and just little things with pacing, and it needed like 2 to 5 more episodes. It could have been a 10 out of 10, but it's more like an 8 out of 10 to me. It's really solid, it's really good, but it could have been better. And I'm definitely going to recommend this to all my friends that enjoy Berserk. I think they would really love it as well. But I just wish it was a little bit better. The best way to put it is I really like Devilman Crybaby. But I want to love it, and I just can't. But what is there is fantastic. I love it. What is there is pretty freaking great. I really like it. There are some scenes that I love to death, but there's just some things that it could have been done better. And I'm sorry that this whole talk has been mostly negative, I feel, but that's just kind of the person I am. I tend to be more critical of the things that I really, really like. I'm not one to just laud something as like the return of Jesus. Unless it's something that I legitimately believe it to be like a 10 out of 10, I won't. I'm not one to praise something and not talk about its issues. I really like Devilman Crybaby. Whatever the hell they do next for Devilman, I don't know what the fuck. I don't really care. I don't know if they might not do a second season. They might fucking do this. They might do that. They might adapt fucking Devil Lady. I don't know. I'll be there for it, and I will be so excited for it. Okay, so my camera fucked up, and it did something stupid, and that whole ending thing where I was explaining, like, oh, well, they might adapt fucking Devilman, fucking Amon's Dark Lady, Devil Lady. Yeah, my camera, it didn't record that shit. So, yeah, just summary, I like Devilman, it's cool, whatever the fuck happens next, I'm all for it. Devilman Crybaby gets like an 8 out of 10 from me. Super cool. If you want to check out my other stuff, it's not usually these like sit down and talk with you guys, off the cuff, barely edited bullshit things. It's more, fully animated something. So check out my like Sell You On Yakuza. That video I'm definitely the most proud of in the past year or so. So yeah, go fucking check out my other videos, please, if you like it. I don't know when my next video will be out. It's just a matter of when I feel like writing a script. This will probably be the video for the month, which I'm sorry because this is super easy and super lazy, but I have too much shit going on with starting my last semester of college as well as family issues, so I just have too much going on. So yeah, I'm gonna go and get Moe's. I'm hungry.
Devil May Cry, baby.